It is 6 a.m. on the dot. A very good morning. Really appreciate you tuning into Kusile Breakfast Show. It is a Tuesday, the 28th day of the third month of the year 2023, the month of March. Blessed and grateful to wake up yet again and keep marching. Good morning. Thank you for tuning into your perfect recipe to start your day. This production is live and direct from our Hospital Hill studios in Babane, courtesy of Eswatini TV. Vukanatsi ngwanelo muhle nalomhla ekseni unambithana kule sitakulethela kona. Njengenjalo ke sitakwetfulela tindzaba tetfu talapha ekhaya kungakapheli imizuzu leminingi kubumbene insimbi yesithupha. Bese kuthi ingagabanxa insimbi yesithupha Sibusiso Mnisi lochamuka enkampanini yahulumende lekhangabo somabhizinisi i-Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority. He is the external trade manager. He will join us to talk about how international trade contributes to the country's economic development, as well as give us some examples of the work that IPA does to market Eswatini as a trade partner with the world. What are some of the trade agreements that are in place between Eswatini and other trade blocs, and what are some of the selling points that Eswatini has that can attract trade partnerships into the country? Kutawuthi-ke uma kubumbana insimbi yesikhombisa sibuke tindzaba lechamuka ngephandle kwalapha eveni, kanti uma sitephetha sitawubuka an insert from the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, on the ethics of artificial intelligence. Now, this insert will provide illuminating insight with regards to how do we harness the potential of AI while ensuring that they do not exacerbate existing inequalities and biases, or even create new ones. It will also talk to some ethical principles that seem to be universally agreed upon, such as privacy, equality, and inclusion. It answers the question, how can we translate such principles into actual practices? Thanks once again for tuning into Kusile Breakfast Show this morning. Stay with us for these next 2 hours. Let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll look at our local news.
Why should we pay our TV license?
The content on our local television is actually more up to date. The industry is enhanced.
It is a criminal offense not to pay your TV license and attracts a fine of 500 emalangeni or 6 months imprisonment.
And the industry is definitely blooming, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we have for you. But we'll be right back just after the break, and we'll give you more of Miss V.
Pay my TV license. That's why I can enjoy the benefits of an enhanced industry and keep track with recent transformation.
Mommy, who pays for a TV license and what are they paying for?
The owners of TV set and gadget with a tuner like DVD set have to pay.
Pay your TV license at NetBank with the details provided on screen. Or use your cell phone via the mobile money pay. You could also visit your nearest post office and pay there. Pay your TV license via Eswatini Mobile Imali. Any TV device retailer can purchase a license to trade. Pay your TV license and enhance the industry.
5 minutes after 6, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, Ndvunankulu Cleopas Dlamini, uthi umkhankaso wekuhlanyela tihlahla umgcokwa njengoba tivikela kugedvuka kwemhlaba tiphindze tidlale indzima lenkulu kuvikela kuguquguquka kwesimo selitulu. Ndvunankulu abekhuluma estation semaphoyisa eMafutseni ngesikhatsi ayawuhlanyela tihlahla ngephasi kwemkhankaso welitiko letekuvakasha lowacala ngeminyaka wanga-2020.
Libhange lemhlaba iWorld Bank lithi 20% wemhlaba welivekati le-Afrika sewugedvukile. Kuvikela lokhu live leSwatini licale umkhankaso ngeminyaka wanga-2020 wekuhlanyela tihlahla kungako Ndvunankulu Cleopas Dlamini station semaphoyisa eMafutseni kutawuhlanyela tihlahla.
Lo mgomo wokuhlanyela tihlahla uthi kufuna si-identifye lapho la tishoda khona tihlahla. La kungasi kungemahlathi khona singehlisa kancane kepha lapha kubonakala ukuthi vele la awusethi njengalapha nje kuyabonakala ukuthi kuyafunakala tifunakala tihlanyela singasho ukuthi sawuhlanyela lo 1 tree 1 person ukuze ukuthi kube khona ukuthi wonke umuntu lokhona la kangwane abe nesihlahla sakhe. Ihlahla lihlanyelelwa imvelo impilo ukuthi liphile liyembili kuphele kugedvuka kuphele ku-carbon bonke labo sibakhawulisha ngaleto zihlahla leto.
Umphathi wesifundza zakamanzini Chief Gija uthi bayawesekela lo mkhankaso wekuhlanyela tihlahla.
Lapho ngase kuyagedvuka khona ngilapho kumele sihlale tihlahla khona kutovimba lokugedvuka. Lokunye tihlahla timcoka ngendlela yekuthi netilwane tiphila ngaleti tihlahla. Nasekude tihlahla titawuphila kuphi tilwane netinyoni titawutalela kuphi tinyoni. Kunengi lokubita tihlahla ukuthi wonke umuntu akasukuma tihlanyele.
Litiko letemvelo lithi lisemkhankasweni wekuhlanyela tihlahla leting-10 million ngeminyaka wanga-2025 kepha-ke kwanyalo letisehlanyelwe tingetulu kwa-600,000. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV nginginelsi Wendlangamandla nginambongo Dube eMafutseni.
Inhlangano yakamhlaba lebuke tindzaba tekutalana United Nations Population Fund seyitawukwelekelela hulumende kutsenga imitsi kanye nemishina letawusebenziswa abomake nemantfombatane etibhedlela nasemitfolamphilo yakuleli. Lobuke emahhovisi yalenhlangano Dr. Barnett Ndiana Bangi uvete loku emhlanganweni nendvuna yetekuhlela umnotfo Dr. Tambo Gina emahhovisini alelitiko eMbabane.
Umphathi waka-UNFPA uthi kusayinwa kwalesivumelwano kusinyathelo lesihle njengoba maningi emavela athethele indlela futhi yawasebentela. Uthi lokhu kutawusita kwekuthi bomake nemamfombatane basheshe basitakale emitfolamphilo nasetibhedlela takuleli njengoba solo basekhona labasishiyako emhlabeni nababeleka kanye nebantfwana.
The signing of what we call the third party procurement agreement where UNFPA is going to be supporting the kingdom, the government to procure supplies, medical supplies, contraceptives, antibiotics for women and equipment for the hospitals. Obviously, this helps because UNFPA procures for many countries, and as a result, we get better prices, we get quality supplies. So it's a big achievement that the kingdom has agreed to use that route to do the procurements, and we hope that will become to fruition soon.
Indvuna yelitiko letekuhlela umnotfo Dr. Tambo Gina ithi kuningi lenhlangano lese ikwendele live leSwatini.
Siyabonga kakhulu lusito lesilitholako kulenhlangano ibambisana nathi njoba sandla kwakhala uhlalo lusha lwenhlala kahle yabantu National Population Policy even la kangwane basisitile kakhulu nekuthi baqinise data collection ethu ukuthi sitothola information lekahle sibe nelwati sitokhona ukuthi bese siyaplana ke kusi masu ekusita sive sengosi ukuthi siphile kahle.
Litiko letekuhlela umnotfo lithi kubomake labang-100,000 kulinganiswa ukuthi kushona 452 wabo nebamfana lokukhomba kona kwekuthi tinhlelo tekuvikela lokhu kufanele tiqiniswe. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Nelsi Wendlangamandla kunamuzi Mkhonda eMbabane.
Libandla letindvuna tembuso selivumile kwekutsi ikhuliswe imali yemfundvo yamahala kulomnyaka. Loku kuvetwe indvuna yelitiko letemfundvo Lady Howard ngesikhatsi yetfula umbiko wekuphela kwemnyaka timali wahulumende wa 2022-2023 ebandleni lelibuke kusebenta kwalelitiko endlini yetimphunga ngalesine.
Sekusikhatsi lesidze tikolwa kanye nebatali tikhala ngekuthi imali yemfundvo yamahala lefakwa nguhulumende yincane. Hulumende sewutivile letikhalo njengoba indvuna yetemfundvo yithi lokungeneli kwale mali bese kutawuba nemthelela longasimuhle kutemfundvo.
With regard to free primary education grant, since it was inaugurated in 2010 until 2022, there has been no increase. Pursuant to inflation, utility bills and other expenditure increases, the ministry took the initiative and wrote a cabinet paper soliciting for the increase of this grant per pupil. I am pleased to pronounce that the FPE grant increase for this school calendar year has been approved by cabinet.
Timphunga tibe setiphosa imibuto kulombiko lowetfulwe indvuna.
Sisilisa phile life. Sibayisa phila abantu labasha. Ngoma sothi akukhethwe emkhathini we-agriculture ne-home economics. Kanti agriculture yinto lemqokwa. Uma kwenteka ngingaphumeleli kahle esikolweni, ngiyathi ukuthi ngitawusima ngente kube khona lengikwentako.
Our only university. Hey buhlungu lokwenteka lapha. Asati lokuthi inkosi yami kungabanjwa kuthi weni.
Uyasho ukuthi kube nema challenges ngendzaba yekudla etikolweni but sekubhlungu nduna ngoba vele labamfana bese bajwayele ukuthi kuyadliwa etikolweni. Bathola lokho lokuncane kwekubambisa lithumbu but nako sekuze kuyophela sekuvala ithemu yonke solo kuletinye itikolo vele lokudla kude.
Seyiphendvula indvuna yethembisile kwekuthi litiko litawutibuka tikhalo tetimphunga. Etindzabeni teSwatini TV kubika Nelson ngamandla kunambongwa Dubeka Lobamba.
Live leSwatini selitawucala licwaningo lwekutsi manyolo wa-7 leShayina eTaiwan utawukhona yini kusebenta lapha eSwatini. Loku kuvetwe indvuna yetekulima Jabulani Mabuza ngesikhatsi yemukela manyolo longemathani lange-20 lobuya kulela live. Indvuna yithi noma kusotowentiwa ke licwaningo tinkhomba titsi lo manyolo utawulunga emhlabatsini walapha eSwatini.
Budlelwane belive leSwatini nelive leTaiwan buchubeka njalo nekutsela titselo letidliwa ngemaswati. Kungumanje balimi batawuzuza kulandzela kutsi live leTaiwan linikele manyolo longu 20 tons etiko letekulima.
Inhloso ke yalabo manyolo ngiloko kuthi ukutestwe nje ngokuthi banjani vele laba lesibatholile banjani vele eveni nabasetshenziswako bayavuma yini kulendzawo yethu ngoba njengoba sathi nje ukuthi Taiwan ise-Asia thina sila endansi la sikhona khona vele la eSwatini bayavuma yini labo manyolo noma bavuma nguloko ke lesitawuthi nasibasebenzisa sikhone ukudetermine ukubona ukuthi vele kuhamba njani kulolo hlangothi. Kwesibili ngiloko ukuthi mangabe kukuhle njengoba sathi ukuthi vele tihlobo tethu leti kunabo somabhizinisi baseTaiwan labakhona la khaya nakungakhanzakala ukuthi mhlawumbe bayavuma labo manyolo engcenye sekungabuketwa ke ukuthi kungete kwasetshenziswana yini ukuthi vele basale bakhiqidwa khona la khaya.
Live leTaiwan lithi tekulima tibalulekile emaswatini njengoba 70% wesive semaswati sincike kuto tekulima.
Last year, the price of fertilizer in May was 76% higher than the same month in 2021. Besides the price, it is equally challenging to outsource it, not only in the commercial sugar production seriously impacted but also the production of the staple food such as maize is jeopardized. It further stresses farmers' income and national food security.
Live leTaiwan lithi lo manyolo ukhetfwe kulabanyenti kanti futhi ungasita ekwendeni umhlaba unothe kukhule nemkhicito. Tindzabeni teSwatini TV kubika Themkosi Mavimbela nginaThemba Shabangu eMbabane.
Mashumi Shongwe lotvume kakhulu ebholeni tetinyonyane kanye netemadolobha sawuvele embi kwenkantolo yamanje yenhlangano. Shongwe uboshelwe tinsolo tekubulala umkakhe Tigezile Magongo lowatfolakala adutshuliwe egedeni kakhe. Shongwe utawutokela ngekhatsi yasamele kutsi indzaba yakhe itekwe enkantolo lenkhulu.
Emaphepha senkantolo aveta kutsi Mashumi Shongwe ubhekene nelicala lekubulala umkakhe Tigezile Magongo. Leli cala usolakala kutsi walenda mhla ka-20 enyangeni yeLweti emnyakeni lophelile. Magongo wafa ngemuva kwekudutshulwa egedeni kakhe. Kuyavela kulamaphepha senkantolo kutsi Shongwe usolakala kutsi leli cala walenda nalomunye nome labanye labasafunwa ngemaphoyisa. Shongwe loku sekayivusele inkantolo yamanje sewubhekeke kutsi aphindze atayivusela ngalesine mhla ka-30 kule nyanga asamele kutsi indzaba yakhe ingene enkantolo lenkhulu. Kanti-ke ngephandle enkantolo yamanje yenhlangano bebakhona lebebatawusekela umndeni wamagongo labebafuna kutsi umtsetfo uthathe indzawo yawo.
Njengoba nisibone nje siphethe ama-placards sitokhombisa umhlaba ukuthi kubuhlungu kangakanani ukuthi ushone etandleni temuntu lowa ukuthi uyamthanza. So umthandazo wethu uthi justice must take its place. Sithandazela nje ukuthi athole isentence lenze even though angeke abuye umkakhe but sibomake sibuhlungu kakhulu.
Shongwe uthe ngekuphuma enkantolo wayiswa emaphoyiseni akhona enhlangano wase sewuyiswa lapho atawugcinwa khona asamele ukuthi indzaba yakhe ichubeke nekutekwa noma-ke aphume ngekuthi athole ibheyili. Ndzabeni teSwatini TV kubika Themkosi Mavimbela nginaThemba Shabangu enhlangano.
Sihlalo welkomidi lelimelele leSwatini ePhalamende elivekati le-Afrika i-Pan-African Parliament Robert Magongo uthi basatawuhlangana nelitiko letemabhizinisi nekutsengiselana bakhulume ngetindzaba tekutsengiselana kanye nalamanye emave lakuleli vekati. Magongo uthi lokhu kuyingcenye yalabatibophelela kukwenta njengemave emhlanganweni walephalamende lobe ubanjelwe emavikini lamabili laphelile.
Si-Afrika asi-accelerate indzaba yokuthi kube ne-free trade la kulamave whatever lesikhiqida kwalamaveni sikhona ukuthengiselana. 2 kwabonakala ukuthi no kunema-protocols lesingakawasayini singemave ikakhulu i-protocol yakhona leka-Pan-African Parliament lekuthiwa iMalabo Protocol. Kunemave la angayisayini lasayini ama-protocols kanzi ama-head of states avumelane e-Abuja ngokuthi kufuna le protocol leyo isayine itokhona le institution ibe legislative. So ngiyabona kwathiwa ngokuhamba kwesikhathi kunemave labona kwakhanda ukuthi kunengcikisi la ikhathi laba protocols liyabonakala ukuthi angeke ikhona ukuthi iqhubeke isebenza ikakhulu nje angikubekisele i-South Africa nje i-question ayenzaba ukuthi lapha kulemalabo protocol kuthiwa lilunga la Pan-African Parliament akufuneki ukuthi kube lilunga leliqhamuka eParliament kufuna kube lilunga leliqhamuka outside bakhanza kungasilo into lekahle leyo. So nalana amave-ke nayi the-follow suit lokho lokuthi angeke phela iParliament uyakhe ngebantu libangaqhamuka eParliament. So ngilethe ngicikizike so nasibuyela siyawu-endosa lo once endosa indzaba yokuthi uma ngabe njengoba bokhethiwe angisi nje mina bengikhethiwe ngikhethiwe nyalo ukuthi iterm yami phela 2026 then nangiwina ukhetho automatically I have to go back ngibuyele ngiyoserva as ngicedzele iterm yami.
Umango waselunzi emphakathini eThundini ngaphansi kwenkhundla yaseMadla ngempisi ujabule kakhulu kulandzela kwekuthi liphupho lawo lekulima umoba liphumelele. lokho kuvedwe ngusihlalo wenhlangano ye-agroplanting emhlanganweni lapho bekuqeqeshwa khona likomiti lale nhlangano ngendlela lekufanele lichube ngayo lo msebenzi.
Kulandzela ukuthi le nhlangano i-agroplanting iphume ingena emahhovisi iminyaka leli-13 ifuna usito lwetimali tekulima umoba. Le nhlangano igcine litfola lusito ka-SIDC. Sihlalo wale nhlangano Mfana Sibili Mzawe uthi bayajabula kubona liphupho labo leminyaka liphumelela.
Sesina 13 years ukuthi bantu bethu lapha sebatawukhona kuthola umsebenzi basebente nalo mango zotawuthuthuka ngobe lapha nje size siqamba le nhlangano kwakuthi siyalima umbila asibuyi nalutho emasimini kuhlala komile lilanga liyabalela kakhulu lapha nje kuyintokoto lenkulu nakulomango nakubomakhelwane ngoba nyalo nje kutawutholakala umsebenzi wokubutha timbanze kutholakala umsebenzi wokufaka bofenisi yonke nje lemisebenzi ikhona bo irrigation konke bo bush caring yonke into nje bantu batawusebenza ukhanze baqashiwe layisha amapipe kuhamba kuyofakwa le.
Uqopho emphakathi waseThundini Samorazulu uthi umango waseLundi sewutawuphila uthuthuke.
Sitakala labanengi emakhaya esicabanga ukuthi population leya ku 700 letawubenefita isitakala imini labantu labaphila kulomango. Labanye futhi batawuphila ngekuthola umsebenzi ngoba kusabulawa bathola imisebenzi lapha bayasebenza babutha kuyahlanyelwa konke kuyahlakulwa sekuvule emathuba emaswatini ukuthi akhona ukuphila. Siyayibonga le ntuthuko ibe inhle kakhulu umaswati akithi ungathi beyingakhosa khona emaswati atokhona kuba nempilo nayo lekhona athi ichubekele embili.
Emakhaya latawuzuza kulo msebenzi angetulu kwema-40 kanti-ke sive singetulu kwema-700. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV ngibonga Simagagule Lundi emahlabathini.
Kutemidlalo loyolo wake wavimbela likhethelo lesive esihlangu semnikati William Kulket Shongwe uthi lithemba likhona ukuthi isihlangu sisangalitfola lithikithi lekuyongenela indzebe ye-African Cup of Nations uma nje lingakhona kuncoba emlendeni wesibili ku-Cape Verde. Sihlangu sitodlala ne-Cape Verde ngalesibili enkhundleni yasembombela eNingizimu Afrika.
Likhethelo lesive lakuleli sihlangu semnikati ngalesihlanu evikini leliphelile ladlala neCape Verde emidlalweni wokuhlungela indzebe ye-Africa Cup of Nations lapho khona ladlala ngekulingana ngelicandza ecandzeni. Leli khethelo litawuphindze lidlala umlente wesibili neCape Verde ngalesibili enkundleni yembombela eNingizimu Afrika. William Kulket Shongwe lowakwadlala leli khethelo lesive uthi sihlangu nasingadlala kulo mdlalo sihlasele singahlala emuva singawuncoba.
I'm unsettled ngoba yes ipoint isilitholile under difficult circumstances bekulokukhune but kepha nje uyathi ngiko lokunikita ligunyana lelitsite lokuthi uyathi if singadefender ngalendlela sidefende ngayo but umdlalo njengoba usho ukuthi sidinga iwin of some sort kakhulu ku home game. Manje i-home game kanjani naku sidlala lena sport lokho bese kuthatha le advantage lengabe sinayo kanti kube besathi ukuthi baye somhlolo besitawabahlolela. Kepha ke ngicabanga ukuthi kukhona ligunya lesingaba nalo ukuthi kukhona lokungenteka i-confidence nje iphakeme kakhulu lokuthi noma under pressure nikwadi ku defend lendlela defend ngayo. But I'm hoping ukuthi coach maybe utasi twikisha lapha nalapha le approach yakhe ku game ukuthi kube khona ama moments la wasebenzisako.
Kanti sihlangu ngemuva komdlalo lemithathu lesidlalile sinamaphuzu lamabili. Balandzeli abafisa ukubukela lo mdlalo batawubhadala emalangeni la-15 kanti lo mdlalo utawucala nakubumbana insimbi yesithathu nzambama khona embombela. Lobikela umsakazi Eswatini TV kutemidlalo ngilinda Dlamini eMbabane.
Lobuke kusebenta kwelihhovisi enhlanganweni lengamele umdlalo wecricket kuleli mandla Dlamini uthi luhlelo lwekumisa lo mdlalo esikolweni luhambe kahle. Bantwana bakhombe ukujabulela lo mdlalo kanye nabothishela babo. Dlamini uthi tingetulu kwema-20 tikolo labakhona kufinyelela kuto.
Uthi tena kuqala umnyaka lo setulu inhlangano lengamele umdlalo wecricket kuleli yaveta ukuthi kulomnyaka bafisa ukufundisa abadlali abancane balomdlalo ikakhulukade etikolweni. Le nhlangano ikanye nabaqeqeshi balomdlalo bakhonile ukuhambela bafundzise tikolo letingetulu kwema-20 kusukela ngenyanga yeNdlovulenkulu.
Le program le iside kakhulu ke thina silive Eswatini. Lo ngikhuluma manje kusukela ngaFebruary isikole lesihambele tingu 65. So itarget yethu lo mnyaka lona bekuthi sihambele isikole leting 54. So le program ihambe kahle kakhulu sibonga kakhulu isupport sitholile etikolweni. Tikole sifike kude laba khona basijikisile basibisela emuva sifike semukeleka kahle safike sa introducer and bantwana bajabula kakhulu iprogram ihambe kahle kakhulu. Tikolo lesitibukile ke thina besingakhethi sile emakhaya sa emadolobheni so lebe sikwenda ke kakhulu lamakhaya emadolobheni besibuka letikolo letisondelene ngoba letikolo leto sibona ukuthi kutabalula ukuthi nangabe sesi-introduce le sport but akhona ukuthi ba-organize lema-friendly badlale and lokuthi akwenda ukuthi labantwana le sport basifunze fast.
Ngekusho kwakhe edlamini bothishela labakhonile ukuthi bafundiswe ngalo mdlalo sengibo labatawuchubeka nekufundisa lo mdlalo etikolweni tabo. Lobekela umsakade Eswatini TV kutemidlalo ngilinda Dlamini kanti sitithombe tichamuka kuyo lenhlangano.
Just 4 minutes before 30 minutes after 6 this morning. Sasifike ke emaphethelweni etindzaba tethu futhi lapha ekhaya sidabahlola emakethe singakayi emakethe sidawuthatha simo selitulo.
I think at this point it's clear that everybody understands that corruption is one of the most important problems in every country. It's pretty much at the top of the list in terms of the issues that citizens complain and pretty much at the top of the list in terms of the frustrations that citizens have. But while there's agreement on this issue, there's not a clear-cut agreement about what are the costs of corruption.
I think the first thing I'd like to say is that a lot of people don't really understand that corruption is far, far more than cash in a brown envelope. Corruption is not a victimless crime, and we all are victims of it.
Corruption does more than anything else to destroy the very essential relationships in society that are needed to have peaceful, harmonious development in a society. It undermines the very glue that holds a society together, where you cannot trust each other, and when you can't trust each other, even doing simple things becomes extremely difficult.
The institutional costs of corruption are also important, and you cannot measure that in figures. You measure that in a successful future for a country, a future full of opportunities for people to work, study, and live in freedom.
I think if you're looking at the destruction of the world's rainforests, the illegal fishing of the world's oceans, the wildlife trade, all of these things involve criminality and corruption. So virtually every environmental crime you see is a crime of corruption at its root.
Corruption is, I would say, at the heart of our failures as society. You can think about, for instance, the fires at the Bangladeshi textile industry. Everything was okay, certifications were signed and given to the owners, but nothing was in place in case of fires. And the result was lots of people dead. That's a huge, huge cost. You can think about the Beirut blast, for instance, with parts of the city completely destroyed, which is not only infrastructure, it was the apartments of people, and of course, the very tragic thing of lives that were lost because of the blast. That's the cost of corruption, not the amount of the bribe paid for a certification without doing the proper controls. The cost is people's lives and people's possibilities. Corruption is a problem for all of us, all of the citizens, and we must all work to tackle corruption.
It's time for a reboot, and I think that is underway, and it's being driven by the indignation and anger of young people.
At the World Bank, we are, among other several things, working on 3 different parallel channels. One, we are obviously discussing how to strengthen institutions and how to strengthen trust in government. On the second hand, we are still working on the old-fashioned cost of corruption and trying to fine-tune the cost of corruption at the micro level, at the sectorial level. But we are really interested in trying to kick off a conversation about what are these other costs of corruption, the ones that imply and have costs in terms of the social contract, etc. This is pretty much a work in progress. This is kicking off an internal debate, quite interesting. People are passionate about it. We would like to invite you to join this conversation.
Pay your TV license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3 hash and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Minutes after 6, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Njengoba besishilo masicala luhlelo ukuthi sitawuba nayo insert leqhamuka ka-UNESCO lesikhulumisa nje ngetindzaba te-artificial intelligence, basically looking at the ethics of artificial intelligence. Kulesikhathi sanyalo-ke sitawubuka yona leyo insert from the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization on the ethics of artificial intelligence. This insert will provide illuminating insight with regards to how do we harness the potential of artificial intelligence while ensuring that they do not exacerbate existing inequalities and biases or even create new ones. It also talks to some of the ethical principles that seem to be universally agreed upon, such as privacy, equality, inclusion. It answers the question, how can we translate such principles into actual practices? Let's take a look.
Do you use any navigation application to go through traffic jams? What happens when you scroll down through your social media feed? Do you follow any recommendation that any streaming service might give you? So by the end of the day, we know that AI is there, But do we actually understand what is going on? And can we trust the output of those applications?
To date, the approach that we've taken to these kinds of technologies is to say, well, consumers can figure this out on their own. They can read the terms and conditions on websites. They can choose not to participate in certain digital environments. But increasingly, these products and platforms are part of our lives. They are part of the way that we provide education. They are part of the way that we look for jobs. And that power imbalance cannot be addressed by simply giving consumers more information or giving them individual rights of complaint. What we're ultimately going to have to do, if we're going to change the kind of structural ways in which these technologies are designed, is to push the responsibilities back on our designers, back on the organizations who are relying on technologies to change their practices.
Technologies like artificial intelligence have the potential to empower people and to broaden their perspectives. Or they can widen inequalities and really don't contribute to address our societal challenges. But we cannot blame the technologies. It's not about the technologies. It's about us developing the framework, shaping the rules that will allow these technologies to deliver to what we want them to achieve. And we need to make sure that we embed those very important ethical principles, the protection and promotion of human rights and human dignity, that would at the end determine the outcomes.
Responsible governance of AI technologies without the buy-in of big tech and other companies is impossible. It is necessary for us to find ways in which to explain to them that ethics is not about abstract principles. Ethics should be bottom-up. It is a dynamic system. It should enable innovation and in the end lead to trust in products of these companies, which would lead to success in terms of whatever their business aims are.
We see how ethical debates end up playing an important role in shaping the conversation of AI regulation. Over the last 5 years, we saw a plethora of charters, declaration of AI ethical principles. We are seeing right now that those principles are being applied on a very practical basis. A lot of countries in Latin America have already come up with their national strategies on artificial intelligence, but some countries in the region are going a step further. They are actually regulating through hard law some of the principles of artificial intelligence.
In the European Union, we're looking at draft AI acts. In the US, Congress is starting to talk in great detail about monopoly power of technology companies. And you can see the wheels turning across the world as countries move from awareness raising to strategy to attempts at implementation, attempts at regulation.
Lack of accessibility to these technologies, by definition, would exclude one from the debate on responsible governance, because in effect, the decisions that are generated in such a process would just not apply to a person who was not part of the data set. So in fact, you are deleted. You don't exist. What is linked to this as well is the issue that previously colonized countries are excluded from conversations around what responsible governance would be, and this just exacerbates the problem.
So there is a first step that needs to be taken, which is to understand which groups are excluded from this conversation, because when we talk about regulation of AI, we're talking about privacy, we're talking about data protection, we're talking about freedom of expression, we're talking about very basic human rights.
What makes the difference is to have sound regulatory frameworks that will protect privacy, that will enhance transparency, that will really deliver on accountability. But this is something we need to shape. It needs to be through a process where we listen to everybody. And I feel that this is the only way we can deliver strong basis for the technologies to deliver to our human goals.
The great risk at this point in time is that artificial intelligence becomes an arms race in which each country only focuses on its own context and see the other countries as competitors. AI might build bridges and connect people and countries, but at the same time could be the other way around. This is the debate that you should care about, because that's the debate that is shaping up our future with technology.
We now take it our second insight now, which speaks to harnessing the force of digital, from the exploding potential of data to the digital divide and fake news. We look at how we can channel the force that is changing almost every aspect of our lives.
It's actually a force that is changing the world in some ways every bit as much as climate change or some of the other megatrends that we see.
Digital has enabled us to really analyze, understand, but also to frame and map problems and challenges such as poverty, inequality, and climate change in ways that we weren't able to do so before.
You cannot solve these complex problems with a single sector approach. You need the whole of government. You need the whole of society to deal with these issues together.
We have this opportunity to really level the playing field and not just say all lives have equal value, but actually use this amazing tool and this amazing information that comes out of these tools being implemented to actually change how people are doing things.
Doing digital means that you're doing what you always did, but you're going to sprinkle a little bit of technology on it so you can do it faster. But being digital involves more than that.
Digitalization is actually the transformation of the business process that you're doing. How does the way you interact and go through your day actually fundamentally change because you've inserted digital technology in it?
I would say one of the key problems or challenges coming out of this is the fact that digital exclusion is rapidly becoming one of the single most important determinants of poverty and inequality. This is all the more concerning because one of the things we're seeing is what might be the dawn or emergence of new forms of poverty, new forms of inequality, made worse by the fact that over time we are seeing what looks like an entrenching of systemic barriers to inclusion, prosperity, and well-being.
We know that access alone is not sufficient, right? So you need to address at the same time the issue of affordability. You need to address issues of tools, and you need to address the issues of skills.
The reality is there are still about 45% of the population globally without access to connectivity or without internet access. A lot of them are actually living in areas that are covered by infrastructure, but they just can't afford the connectivity, or they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to use the devices. They don't have the digital skills necessary.
Those who already face challenges in accessing health usually are also the same who find themselves on the wrong side of the digital divide.
Digital solutions needs to be part and parcel of innovation policy today, right? So when we talk about innovation policies, they need to be digital by default.
70% of information that is false is retweeted far more frequently than the information that is actually true. And so the growth of that misinformation also is one of the things that's a huge challenge for our entire planet to really grapple with.
There isn't really an easy digital fix for just eliminating misinformation. You can shut accounts down on social media and you can do certain things, but the most important thing is that you're establishing better, more credible channels of truthful information that people will trust.
One thing we needed to do, and we have been doing this quite a lot across the board, is to get citizens' involvement, coming up with the solutions.
We are in definitely unprecedented territory when it comes to the power of the individual, because we have that direct connection.
With new technologies, big data, and other innovations, we are able to have a much more fine-grained and focused understanding of problems, which enables us in working with governments in the targeting of their solutions to ensure a much more powerful impact, potentially at least, in terms of their investments.
We've been working in development for a long time, and we have instituted a number of tests in this think, test, replicate sort of model, where we have used data, and that data is anonymized and comes out as data analytics that then gets married with other data that's already in the information system, census data, others. Many of the development questions we have can actually be answered without going to the level of personally identifiable information. I think it's an important part of bringing everyone into the fold to figure out when we're going to use data, what for, and providing people with an ability to control what their information is used for that goes to the citizen level.
Digital is changing the context in which we're operating. I think there's a tendency sometimes to think that digital is just a tool or a gadget that you add onto something and then it just makes it run faster. What we're really understanding is that the rollout of new technologies is changing the context in which development is happening.
You want to make sure that technology is benefiting the underserved. You need to consider whether or not you need to actually build something new, or does something already exist that you can reuse.
Digital transformation also enables the leapfrogging and building on of existing technologies and existing approaches in a way that wasn't earlier possible. We can see people in remote parts of, for example, Mauritania, reaching out to customers or clients in very faraway locations that they themselves may never have been to.
I think UNDP's job is really to enable that innovation, to enable that core, so that solutions are powered by innovative thoughts, right? Ways, means, financing, so that we can achieve our sustainable development goals faster.
Some of this has been really brought home by the COVID pandemic, where countries understood that if they had had more digital infrastructure in place, they could have responded in a more timely and effective fashion than they were able to.
I think the key crux of it is actually to think about it as a systems problem. If we all want to get here, a better planet, then we have to learn to embrace digital technology and figure out together how we're going to mitigate its harms.
I think if the human species is going to get out of this century alive, we are going to have to understand that climate change is an existential threat to the entire world, and worsening inequality is only going to make it worse. Digital is one of the factors or the ways that we can actually more effectively address both inequality and climate change.
But I think the biggest contribution UNDP can make is really, the collaboration and the collaborative approach to find the solutions together.
I actually think it's trust and coming together, recognizing that we all are fundamentally the same under the covers. And we really have had this wake-up call in the last 16 months that in this, we're actually all in this planet together.
Well, that was it on the harnessing of digital. Just, the agreement there is, the crux of the matter is embracing digital technology while being ready to mitigate its harms. It is 51 minutes after 6. Take a quick ad break. Umasibuya, sithola traffic update.
Lesi sikhathi lapho khona emaphoyisa agubha kuba khona kwawo even. Kulapho kukhuthathwa khona sive ukuthi sike sihlale phansi sibuke bumcoka bemaphoyisa empilweni yabantu. Siphindze sibuke indlela letinsha tekuphepha kubo bonke bucala lobuveta sihloko. Sive sakangwane siyakhunjutwa ukuthi singawafaki emaphoyisa etinkulumeni tepolitiki ngoba liphoyisa alingeni futhi alingenelani nepolitiki. Emaphoyisa alwa nebucala netingoti temgwaco kuphela nje. Ingako emaphoyisa athi wonke umuntu eveni akahlale ngaphandle kwekunceneka ukuthi angahle ahlaselwe tilwane tasendle. Umuntu lohlala Eswatini akatiphilele atisebentele ngaphandle kwekwesaba kuhlaselwa kwemucwa nekucekelwa phansi kwembahla yakhe. Nawe wena lophathekile emaphoyisa athi digulele kahle uze uphile ngaphandle kwekuphatamiseka. Lokungenteka ngekuthi tidlova tingene tihlasele labo labakunakekelako kuleyo ndlu. Sive lesihlakaniphile nguleso lesiphakamisa kusebenta kwemaphoyisa nabo bonke labalwa nebucala. Ngale kwaloko timbungushe tiyawuwangenela emazinyane kungenamuntu ekhaya. Lo mlayeto niulethelwa ngemaphoyisa embube abambisene nomsakato wetithombe.
Seven minutes before 7. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Lesikhatsanyalo-ke sithola i-traffic update. Sesivele sinaye ke Ntombenhle Fakutsa ecingweni lota usipha yona i-traffic update. Mdolo sikuvuselelwa mhla ekuseni. Ingabe sibe kanjani simo emigwaqweni?
Ngikuvusele emsakati, ngivusele naye umbukeliwe Kusile breakfast show. Imigwaqo elivela kangwane sesihlolile, imigwaqo nyalo ekseni seyiqalile iyaphithitela. Emigwaqweni lemikhulu yelivela kangwane nakhona emadrobheni amakhulu siyabona linani letimotolo nalo lebantu seliyaphakama, ikakhulukazi nje abantu labahamba ngetinyawo ekhaya edolobheni kumathapha inani labo linengi kakhulu. Siyakhuthaza nje ukuthi labo labashayelako la kunebantu labanengi khona ababanike tigaba tekuhamba noma ke tekuwela emigwaqweni kuze ukuthi wonke umuntu losebenzisa umgwaqo aphephe. Lokunye ke lokukhona siyanaka imoto lethethala sive nyalo ekseni nangetithuba tasensihamba kakhulu kumbe nasekuqale kungcunza wona emehlo. Ukhanza ukuthi le timoto leto setilayisha ngelinani leliphakeme kakhulu noma ke setigcwala kakhulu leto timoto kanti phela siyathi ukuthi imoto lethethala sive ine linani lalo lelifanele ukuthi lilayishe. Siyakukhutha ke lokho singumbutho wembube ukuthi noma ngabe abantu banengi kangakanani asichubekeni silayishe ngelinani lelifanele kuze ukuthi imotolo tethu litawuhamba kahle ngekuphepha singadikhanzi sesingena etingotini. Emadolobha elive ahloliwe tibane temgwaqo ekhaya edolobheni lelikhulu eMbabane lesilapha eMangwaneni atisebenzi nyalo ekseni. Siyakhuthaza nje nakhona lapho ukuthi labo labahamba ngetimotolo abende isiqiniseko ukuthi phela lapho bafike bayema baphindze bahambe kwathi sephela ukuthi tibane temgwaqo latingasebenzi loyo mgwaqo loyo noma leto tibane leto siyaye bese setiyajika setiba yi-4-way stop sithi nje asikwende lokho kuze ukuthi nalaba labahamba ngetinyawo batawukhona ukuthi bawele kuloya mgwaqo. Lo mgwaqo loya ubandi kakhulu kulukhunyana nje ukuthi umuntu angakhona ukuthi awele ingaqhamuki imoto wathi sephela sivele lapha netimotolo lethu sisebenzisa kuloya mgwaqo tinengi kakhulu sithi nje imotolo atime lapha siphindze sihambe kuze ukuthi nalabo labahamba ngetinyawo batawukhona ukuthi bawele ngekuphepha. Isiteladi lesingisomhlolo road lesuka khona ekhaya edolobheni sibheke khona esport nyalo ekseni solo sivaliwe kwathi sephela ukuthi i-70 temgwaqo solo tiyaphithitela khona lapho siyakha nakhona lapho sisi labangena khona ekhasi edolobheni labaqhamuka ngakhona kongwenya abasebenzise letinye tindlela tengena edolobheni singakhanzi seseminyetelana kuleto tindledlana letincane lebasivulele tona lapho kwekuthi sihambe kuto umgwaqo lo omkhulu losuka khona ehekeni lasengwenya ubheke khona ngamanzini olofaka ekhathi naye emalagwana kude sikhinyabedo lesikhona khona lapho nalamanye ke emadolobha siwahlolile edolobha la kumakhaphala lakamanzini esiteki nakhona enhlangano kude sikhinyabedo lesikuwo khona kuwo lawo madolobha netibane temgwaqo siyasebenta tonke ngalokufanele tifundza tonke ke sitihlolile lesikubonile njeke kudote letifundza nangetithuba tasekuseni kakhulu ukhanza tinkhomo isekhathi emgwaqweni siyakhutha nje kubo laba buke tinkhomo noma ke banikati betinkhomo kwekuthi abente isiqiniseko ukuthi siyavaleleka tingakhandi setijangaza emgwaqweni lokho kusibangela tingoti kakhulu ngale kwaloko msakati naye umbukeli imigwaqo elive iyahambeka ngaphandle nje kwaloku lesenkushito kungaba kufisela yena umbukeli usuku loluhle naloluphephile basetawusebenzisa yona imigwaqo elive lakangwane.
Sibonga kakhulu Mtola, it is 3 minutes before 7. Sasitawubahlola emakethe uma sibuya sitawuthatha indzaba leti qhamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you'll go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience in the kingdom.
It is 7 a.m. on the dot. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Let's take a look at our international news. We start in the United States of America, where a storm ravaged Mississippi on Sunday, struggled with the aftermath of a huge tornado that tore across the southern U.S. state and killed at least 25 people, with devastated communities bracing for a fresh bout of extreme weather. Shocked rescue workers surveyed the damage, with homes shredded, buildings flattened, and cars smashed together amid piles of debris in Rolling Fork, a small town all but wiped out by nature's wrath.
Mississippi town of Rolling Fork bore the brunt of Friday's tornado as residents found themselves in the eye of the storm. Half of the over 25 people killed lived in this town, but that toll could rise further. Rows of devastated houses have their contents strewn across the town, with trees uprooted and cars flown around like toy replicas. Residents have been left to take stock of the damage.
The chief of police house, our neighbor houses. It's been in the community for a long time. nothing left.
Jeremy found safety by hiding in a restaurant while his family hunkered down at home, caught unawares by the twister.
Everybody was inside their house. It's kind of hard to say, but the house is gone, but they was inside the house still after we pulled them from debris.
The tornado struck during the night. Many were asleep in their beds, unaware that the twister was barreling down towards them. The first warning they had was the noise of the wind. Within 10 minutes, it was all over. With roads blocked, police are moving around on quad bikes, but no amount of training can prepare you for the sheer amount of devastation left in the wake of a tornado.
We're still finding deceased people right now. It's going to be a long process. I've been in law enforcement for a while. I've never in my life dealt with anything like this.
Help is now being brought to those affected in Mississippi and neighboring Alabama from both the government and charities.
We're trying to provide people with a place to stay overnight with food and support, medical support, to be able to just have a place to lay their heads because they lost everything.
A state of emergency has been declared in Mississippi, but tornado warnings remain in place in several southern states.
Cyclone Freddy is gone, but the talk about its effects remains. The devastating impact on human lives, environment and infrastructure is deep with most affected households. Poor sanitation, worsened by lack of running water and adequate toilets in evacuation camps, is exposing Cyclone Freddy survivors to waterborne diseases, including cholera.
Over a week after Cyclone Freddy hit Madagascar, Malawi and Mozambique, residents are still feeling its devastating effects. Aside from the material damage, people are now facing major health risks. Hundreds of health facilities were destroyed or flooded. The flooding, compounded with the interruption of critical services, also means that waterborne diseases can spread more easily.
The cyclone's devastation has raised public health risks, including the increased spread of cholera, malaria, vaccine-preventable diseases, even COVID-19 and malnutrition. And of course, support for trauma and mental health is equally needed.
Both Mozambique and Malawi were already grappling with cholera outbreaks. According to the WHO, cholera cases have more than doubled in Mozambique over the past week alone. In neighboring Malawi, which is battling its worst ever cholera outbreak, cases have continued to drop. But health experts worry that this trend could soon be reversed in Freddy's wake. For people on the ground, the threat of cholera is still all too real. Many were displaced and are now living in temporary accommodation centers.
We draw water from the nearby river. The river flows downstream from a graveyard. In the same area, there are pit latrines. With the rains, the latrines are filled with water, and all that stuff is being swept into the river we draw water from. So there is a risk of cholera. We also have children here facing similar risk because they too drink the same water.
The WHO estimates that more than 1.4 million people were affected by the extensive damage, flooding, and torrential rains in Malawi, Mozambique, and Madagascar.
We bring focus now to Africa, where Congo's former rebel leader, jailed by the International Criminal Court, Jean-Pierre Bemba, has been appointed Congo's defense minister and deputy prime minister in a cabinet reshuffle.
In a sweeping government reshuffle, an ex-warlord is DR Congo's newest defense minister. The former vice president, Jean-Pierre Bemba, is the founder of the Movement for the Liberation of Congo, an armed militia accused of committing thousands of murders, rapes and looting in the Central African Republic 2 decades ago. After almost 10 years behind bars awaiting trial, in 2016 the International Criminal Court sentenced him to 18 years in prison for war crimes and crimes against humanity. He was acquitted on appeal just a couple of years later, a decision Amnesty International decried as a huge blow to the victims of sexual violence. Bemba's new role means he'll be responsible for stabilizing the east of the country, where clashes between M23 rebels and government forces displaced over 1 million people last year. Vital Kamerhe is similarly qualified for his new role as economy minister. He was sentenced in 2020 to 20 years in prison for embezzlement before being acquitted on appeal. The reshuffle comes as President Tshisekedi looks to strengthen his position ahead of running for re-election in December.
Israelis awaited a decision on Monday from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on a controversial judicial overhaul as a general strike and mass protests spell the country's most severe domestic crisis in years.
Israel's largest union has called for a nationwide walkout over Netanyahu's judicial reform. A watershed moment, employers and employees alike calling this an existential crisis for their democracy.
The Histadrut and the private sector are cooperating for the first time in history for the sake of the State of Israel.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been conspicuous by his silence on Monday, taking only to Twitter to ask protesters to refrain from violence. But with the strike grounding flights, halting healthcare, closing the country's largest port, some post offices, several shopping malls and McDonald's, his authority seems to be dwindling.
I don't care who will come instead of him. Anyone is better than Netanyahu.
I think everyone should strike today, all sectors of the economy. We're demanding that our government stop this crazy reform. We want equality, a constitution and a human rights declaration.
The president joined in the pile on Monday morning, calling on Netanyahu to stop his reform, as did the leader of the opposition. This judicial reform would give the executive freedom to appoint Supreme Court justices and empower the parliament to overturn their decisions with a simple majority. The Israeli premier sacked his defense minister on Sunday after a televised appeal to stop the bill. And as Netanyahu now prepares to address the nation, there are reports that his coalition may be crumbling from within.
In France, French police again clashed with protesters as campaigners sought to stop the reconstruction of reservoirs in the southwest, the latest in a series of violent standoffs as social tensions erupt nationwide. The violent scenes in Eswatini in western France came after days of violent protests nationwide over President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform that prompted the cancellation of a visit by King Charles III of the United Kingdom.
The remains of these vehicles show the scale of violence of Saturday's demonstration in Eswatini. 4 police vans were set alight. Protesters threw petrol bombs. In response, police fired rubber bullets and water cannons. Dozens of people were injured, several of whom are in a critical condition.
We didn't come here for that. We have our opinion and we came to express it. But when we arrived, we were faced with criminals. Some of them were very young, some were a lot older.
What shocked me was seeing young people injured. One lost an eye, another one lost a toe.
Campaigners were protesting against the construction of reservoirs, which can be used by farmers for irrigation when droughts occur. They claim that the project would limit locals' access to water and harm France's valuable wetland areas, which are home to a range of wildlife. France's Interior Minister insists that the construction will go ahead as planned.
This project has been legally approved and it's important for our farmers, who we need to support.
The 3,200 officers who were deployed ahead of Saturday's protests will remain in the area indefinitely. An inquiry has been opened to determine how those in a critical condition sustained their injuries.
NATO criticized Vladimir Putin for what it called his dangerous and irresponsible nuclear rhetoric, a day after the Russian president said he would station tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. Putin announced the move on Saturday and likened it to the United States stationing its weapons in Europe, while insisting that Russia would not violate its nuclear non-proliferation promises.
According to Vladimir Putin, it's nothing unusual. The Russian president compared his plan to station tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus to American arms in Europe. The West, though, says that's misleading, with NATO calling the announcement dangerous. For the EU's foreign policy chief, it could warrant new sanctions on Belarus.
Belarus hosting Russian nuclear weapons would mean an irresponsible escalation and threat to European security. Belarus can still stop it. It is their choice. The EU stands ready to respond with further sanctions.
Putin gave no indication of when the arms would be stationed, but plans to build a storage facility by July. The White House says it hasn't yet seen any movement of weapons.
I can tell you that we've seen nothing that would indicate Mr. Putin is preparing to use tactical nuclear weapons in any way whatsoever in Ukraine. And I can also tell you that we haven't seen anything that would cause us to change our own strategic nuclear deterrent posture.
Ukraine says the move violates nuclear non-proliferation agreements, which the Kremlin denies. Kyiv has called for an emergency meeting at the UN Security Council to stop what it calls nuclear blackmail.
Scotland is looking to see the naming of a new Scottish First Minister, with the leader facing the daunting task of reviving a faltering independence movement after Nicola Sturgeon's surprise resignation. Finance Minister Kate Forbes and Health Minister Humza Yousaf are favourites in the three-way race, according to an Ipsos poll conducted March 17 to the 21st. Ash Regan, a former minister in Sturgeon's cabinet, is an outsider in the three-way contest.
Three candidates are in the running to lead Scotland, with Humza Yousaf and Kate Forbes almost neck and neck in polling amongst members of the Scottish National Party. Humza Yousaf is the current health minister. He has close ties to outgoing leader Nicola Sturgeon, but he's come under fire for his record in government. Yousaf says he wants to put the spotlight on his positive vision for an independent Scotland instead of focusing on the failures of the UK government in London. Kate Forbes is the favourite candidate amongst Scottish people, according to polls, and at 32 would become one of the world's youngest leaders if she wins. But the finance minister's conservative views on issues like same-sex marriage have already lost her supporters. Former Minister Ash Regan is the outsider in the contest. Whoever takes over will have to revive support for Scottish independence, the cornerstone of the Scottish National Party, backed by Nicola Sturgeon. Sturgeon's decision to resign took the country by surprise. It came after a tough few months for the outgoing leader. There's been fierce opposition to her proposals to reform gender recognition laws, which were blocked by the UK government. But Sturgeon says she resigned for personal reasons, insisting she didn't have the energy to keep going. She's already started taking driving lessons as she readies herself for life after government.
We bring focus back to Africa. In Burkina Faso, as families flee violence, they often find themselves helpless and alone in the capital city, Ouagadougou. An association called Firms and Marsh is working with international groups to help these families.
From the outside, this courtyard is no different from others in the Samgonde neighborhood of Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso's capital city. But behind these walls is the Foyer Fama, a house where women and children fleeing extremist violence can find shelter. Rasmata Diko, a mother of 7, fled her village of Kelbo near the city of Kaya in the center-north region. Her life changed in February 2020 when armed insurgents attacked her village.
They came to our houses, they selected the people, and the head of our family was also taken away. They killed them not far from our houses. They left me with the children.
The Africa Center for Strategic Studies reported huge increases in extremist violence across the region last year. Rukietu Diko and her 3 children arrived at the center a month and a half ago.
5 soldiers came to our yard and our children were scared. My husband decided that I would go with the children. He couldn't run away because as a man, if they see him, they'll kill him. They let the women and children go.
Around 50 women and children benefit from the hospitality of the Foyer Fama Center, where they receive work training. The women also take cooking and weaving classes with the support of the Swiss non-governmental organization Cuisine Sans Frontières, or Kitchens Without Borders. And young men learn to wield all with the aim of becoming self-sufficient. Absatou Diallo works for Femmes en Marche, or Women on the Move, the group that runs the Foyer Fama. She says those who stay at the center also need psychological care.
It is true that we really need psychological follow-up, both for women and for children. There are children who have suffered trauma, who have seen their uncle, their brother, executed in front of them. When I say children, I mean children of 5 or 6 years old.
The legal status of the internally displaced people who sought refuge in Ouagadougou is another challenge, Diallo says.
The authorities recognize the existence of the internally displaced people, but they do not benefit from aid or assistance at the government level.
VOA's attempts to reach the Ministry of Humanitarian Action for comment were unsuccessful. According to a recent report by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, 4.7 million people in Burkina Faso will need humanitarian aid in 2023. For Thierry Kaoure and Yakuba Ouedraogo in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, Salim Salaman, VOA News.
A university professor threatened by separatist violence in Cameroon is now in Southern California, sharing with her students the impact of armed conflict on the environment and on women.
Elizabeth, a Yucatang, makes a traditional dish of arrow greens and yam flour for her family dinner. They are a long way from their last home in Cameroon's southwestern city of Buea, where a Yucatang chaired the university English department. That work made her a target in the conflict between Anglophone separatists and government forces in the largely French-speaking Central African country.
Having a lot of threats, phone calls threatening me if you continue to teach, and they will come for you, especially as the chair of your department.
She was shot in the wrist in 2019. Her husband was kidnapped twice. Raising children in that instability, their lives changed during a virtual mentoring call with University of California professor Kumkum Bhavnani.
One day, I heard a lot of sound and I could hardly hear Elizabeth. And I said, Elizabeth, what's going on? What's all that noise? And that was when she said to me, oh, those are gunshots. What do you mean they're gunshots? Well, there's a civil war here.
Bhavnani helped a Yucatang apply to the Institute of International Education's Scholar Rescue Fund, which sponsors fellowships for threatened and displaced scholars at partner schools worldwide. She and her family came here to the University of California at Santa Barbara, where her lectures focus on militarism and the harm that armed conflict inflicts on the environment and on women.
Women are mothers to those child soldiers, because you have young kids of about 9 to 16, even 18 or 20, who are all recruited into the army of the secessionists. And of course, even the state's military, women are mothers to all those military people that are fighting and are being killed. Women are wives to the husbands who are being kidnapped as well as even killed. Women are being raped.
Graduate student Natasha Moore is researching the historically African-American Rondo neighborhood in her native Minnesota. She says a Yucatang's course on African history and culture adds important context.
It's almost like you're able to trace how the southern plantation culture was brought up to Minnesota to shape Rondo, and it's that culture, those values, those morals, those ways of being in the world that has allowed Rondo to still persist despite all the state section violence. And if you understand the southern plantation culture, then you're understanding African culture, because that is sort of like a continuation of the African homestead and the black neighborhood are sort of like the same sort of institutions.
A Yucatang says living outside the conflict in Cameroon has allowed her to complete a new book of poetry.
Walk with me. Peaceful villages now left in smoke, edged by a labyrinth of bullets. Nagasaki again. This time, 50,000 lives lost in 5 years in Noso. Northwest, southwest.
Jenny Adulo for VOA News, Santa Barbara, California.
The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has hailed Zimbabwe's efforts to move to climate-resistant grains such as millet to improve food security. A FAO team is in Zimbabwe to promote the grains and celebrate the International Year of Millets.
Years ago, all these fields belonging to Chieza Rupedo would mainly be dedicated to corn for sadza or ischwala, a thick porridge that serves as the country's staple food. It's now all small grains. The change in crops has been easy, Rupedo says.
I prefer small grains because this place is hot. There is less rain, which is suitable for millets. Plus, we discovered that small grains need less labor to plant them.
But not everyone prefers the small grains, which some call traditional grains. Vangelis Hartatos is Zimbabwe's Deputy Minister of Agriculture.
Some people have been resisting, and that's also correct because, you know, they haven't grown traditional grains for many years, and now you're trying to influence them to grow. So there's naturally, as human beings, we are going to resist. But like I said, when you see your next door farmer producing and thriving, you yourself, you make that decision and say, you know what, the government, what it's saying is actually correct. Let me try.
According to the Zimbabwean government and the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, small grain yields are triple those of corn, the country's staple crop, and are more nutritious. Scientists say that with climate change reducing rainfall and causing recurring droughts, farmers should move away from corn.
Zimbabwe used to be called the food basket of Africa. Zimbabwe is, is one of the areas that we consider the center of origin for sorghum in the Southern African region. And because of the diversity and the hard work and the investment that the government is making in this area, we thought that Zimbabwe is a good example and a good place to start with launching International Year of Millets in Africa.
Andrew Mushita heads Zimbabwe's Community Technology Development Organization and has been working with the UN Food and Agriculture Organization to promote small grains in the country. He says a corner has been turned in the last 2 years.
Precisely because then we are facing challenges of climate change, which is quite devastating and which has seen Zimbabwe being a net importer of food rather than exporter of food. So that really brought a wake-up call for both government and many development partners and civil society organizations to begin to invest in the production and increase the utilization of traditional foods.
The government hopes that small grains will soon make up at least a third of Zimbabwe's food reserves and that the country can resume exporting surplus food. Columbus Mavunga for VOA News, Masvingo.
Islamist militant attacks in southern Burkina Faso have raised concerns that young people across the border in Ghana may be drawn to extremism due to a lack of economic opportunities. Aid Group Rural Initiatives for Self-Empowerment, or RISE Ghana, is using arts and entertainment to rally youth against extremism through a program they call Peace in Schools. Senano Todd reports from Bogatanga, Ghana.
At the Bogatanga Technical Institute in Ghana, students are painting their vision of a peaceful society. In real life, their communities are marked by tribal disputes and conflicts that experts say threaten security. Students say different factions target young people, assigning them to dangerous tasks and sometimes combat.
Mostly they take advantage of us to use us in their activities, such that we have the strength, one, and two, we are easily deceived. So they try to use with the youth, so as girls too, they can come in and say, oh, I have something for you and a reward for you at the end of what they want us to do.
National security officials say increasing unemployment among young people in northern Ghana is making them even more vulnerable to extremist groups. The northern region, one of the country's poorest, borders Burkina Faso, where Islamist militants have made huge advances in recent years.
all the economic, social, and cultural factors that are in Ghana here are also present in those other countries that have already fallen into violent extremism. Therefore, it's just a matter of time before it will come here. I'm talking about issues like economic mismanagement. I'm talking about marginalization. I'm talking about unequal development of societies. I'm talking about a certain group feeling that there are certain groups of people in Ghana who feel they are marginalized. And you know, these violent extremists, these are the things they take advantage of.
To help avert the risk of recruitment into militant groups, the Rural Initiatives for Self-Empowerment, RISE Ghana, has launched a Peace in School campaign in 15 schools in the Upper East region of Ghana. The project uses arts, theater, and entertainment to engage the youth and rally them against violent extremism.
So we are staging this drama so that the children will understand the modus operandi of some of these violent groups and the fact that when they expose their colleagues to other kind of behaviors like discriminating against them, it can lead them to become radicalized.
Bismarck Atintono is the teacher training the students with drama and arts.
They are so attached into recreation or entertainment. So when it comes to entertainment, there's always focus. Everybody wants to see, everyone wants to hear. There's always a crowd.
RISE Ghana and their partners hope that the Peace in Schools project will equip the youth with enough information on how to quickly identify and avoid violent extremists, and also help them report any suspicious advances to the right authorities. Sana Anutot for VOA News, Bolgatanga, Ghana.
The Basketball Africa League has been around since 2019. It is part of the United States National Basketball Association, the NBA, and expanding basketball into Africa with its first season in 2021. A new initiative is opening the way for women players as well.
Adama Hawa Diallo has high goals for her career. She wants to play basketball around Africa and the world. The Basketball Africa League, or BAL, has set up the BAL for her initiative she says is perfect for her.
I have challenges. I want to win everything, and that's what I've been aiming for a long time. To be queen of basketball, to be champion of Africa, to travel. That's what I really want.
BAL Operations Chief says the program has two goals: to teach the game to women basketball players and to raise the profile of women players.
This camp today is to provide an opportunity for the girls to have more visibility, to provide them with a little more material in terms of basketball, and off the field also, because they are going to do a basketball camp, then a seminar on nutrition and on women in sports.
For many of these female players, it's not about comparing them to male players, but about access to opportunity, says Malian Amshiatou Maigaba, a professional women's basketball player.
We can grow together, and it's a pleasure to see these women who have opportunities, not only on a basketball court, but all around, because they have abilities, and it's a pleasure to see them having the opportunity to demonstrate.
After specific initiatives for women, such as regional camps and the National Basketball Association Academy program for girls, the BAL leadership says they are looking to strengthen the place of women in sports.
We will continue to produce talent at girls' level, and all these talents, when time comes, will be able to perform on the continent in a professional women's league that we will also continue to develop.
The league has plans to add more camps and create space for women in the coming years. For Seydina Abagui in Dakar, Senegal, Salam Solomon, VOA News.
30 minutes after 7, we have come to the end of our international news. We take a quick ad break. When we return, we speak to Sibusiso Mnisi from the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority on external trade. Don't go away.
TV license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3 hash and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. It is 33 minutes after 7. Now, the Kingdom of Eswatini continues to position itself as an export-oriented economy and as Africa's new promise. The kingdom is compelled to become a leading destination for trade and investment. The Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority aims to be the focal point for all trade and investment engagements regarding the Kingdom of Eswatini. Now, with the advent of trade agreements like the African Continental Free Trade Area and the African Growth and Opportunity Act, as well as other networks of trade across Europe and the UK, how is Eswatini being positioned as a trade destination to the world? Sibusiso Mnisi is the External Trade Manager at the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority. He joins me now for an overview on external trade. Mr. Mnisi, a very good morning. Always lovely to have you around to speak on external trade. Let's just get straight into it. When we speak about external trade, how does Eswatini position itself?
No, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to me as well to be in your program. Yeah, I think that's it's a very good question because, like you indicated in your introduction, we are driving what we'll say an export-led economy for the obvious reasons. You know, we are a small country, so we have to be selling our products mainly to the external markets. And fortunately for us, you know, the external markets, which are even closer to us, you look at our neighbors, South Africa and Mozambique. I've always said when you combine them, you know, you automatically get a population of over 70 million.
Yeah.
So then that's then saying government, you know, took that position to say, let's be an export-led economy. So Eswatini is playing a big role, you know, through the activities undertaken by Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority.
Yeah.
You know, we are a major supplier, you know, as a country. You know, no doubt about that, because certain commodities that we produce, you know, in the country, you know, they go to the manufacture of other products, you know, in other countries. I can make an example. We're one of the biggest producer in the forest industry. Okay. You know, producing a wide range of products, you know, that we are shipping to mostly Southern Africa, but also to Europe and also in other countries in Africa.
Yeah.
You look at, we are the fourth largest producer of sugar. Well, the last I checked, that's where we were in Africa, and most of that we're exporting it to Africa and then also to Europe and the USA. You know, you look at other products such as ethanol, they are also going to the manufacture of other products, you know, in other industries. You know, ethanol made from, coming from sugar as a byproduct, molasses, you know, beef, you know, you can just name all the products. One of our biggest export, of course, being mixture of odoriferous substances, which is the concentrate, which we are exporting to Southern, Eastern, and West Africa. You know, that's, I would say, it's our flagship, you know, export products, because we always say when you are in that side of the world, you know,
Yeah.
and you are buying a Coca-Cola, you must know that the major substance
Yeah.
is made from the kingdom. So if you look at those products, they are going to the manufacture of their inputs into making other products. So we play a very big role, you know, in terms of making sure that Eswatini, from an export point of view, people sourcing from us, exporting, you know, they recognize us, you know, for that. We supply almost, we are in all the continents. Right now, Africa, as you said, the AFCFTA, I've said it before that already we are done Southern Africa, we are exporting East Africa, and then West Africa. And then hopefully now we'll even go above the Sub-Sahara. We are going to Europe, USA, Asia. So I think we play a big role, you know.
And I can just say that, you know, as you speak, it is clear to me that you guys are pretty much have the biggest task in terms of economic sustenance in the country. And of course, that highlighted by looking at other world economies that are thriving. I think their backbone is trade more than anything. When we come back to Eswatini, you've counted forestry, sugar, ethanol, beef, concentrate.
Those are just some.
Yeah, just some of them. Why is it important to market Eswatini as a trade destination to the continent?
Yeah, I think for the reason that I've also said, you know, that we produce very, very important, you know, products that will go to the manufacture of, you know, other products, as I've said. But you know, Eswatini is also a party to a number of free trade agreements. So when we are promoting the country, you know, out there, we are also saying to investors, you can come and set up shop in the country. You know, for some of the products that I've mentioned, you know, the sectors that I've talked about, we've got FDI that is really coming into setup, you know, so that they can target, you know, those markets that we have talked about. Be it Comesa, for instance, where we are one of, I would say, we are the only country in SACU that is accessing that market. So we've got industries that are set up specifically to access the East Africa and get the preferences. So we always say that, if you're an investor, you come, you set up, you are guaranteed that your investment, you will get the returns because you'll access these preferences. You will recall some time back when we think around 2000, when we joined AGOA, you know, we had an influx of FDI in textile and apparel targeting the USA market. Hence, we created a lot of jobs. So we are indeed a destination that should be promoted in terms of, I'm focusing on export. We do import, you know, products, you know, as a country. And looking at our geographical location, you know, we are also nicely positioned because, like I've said, we can easily become the hub or the transit route, South Africa and then Mozambique, and we are right in the middle, and we've got access to major ports. All the ports where you
Hence
can
Africa's new promise.
Yeah, that's what we say.
And then let's talk about how trade contributes to economic development. I want you to, because when we talk about it as the general public, we just scratch the surface. But I think it's important now that we have you here to really give us a clear picture of how really it contributes to economic development.
Yeah, I think if we look at the major determinant of economic growth, which is the GDP. So a country that is producing, you know, it means its GDP is I'll say good, depending on where it is, you know, comparing with other countries. So the mere fact that we have got all these industries, and it's a wide range. You cut across a lot of sectors. I've not mentioned textile. I've not mentioned citrus, you know, vegetables, you know, all of those industries. So having them producing, that will contribute obviously to our GDP growth. And then, but also, as I said, that attraction of FDI is bringing in a critical component in terms of creating jobs now, because again, that's very important. People coming, setting up, and then people get the jobs.
Yeah.
And then obviously we buy goods from other countries using forex, US dollar, whatever. So we need those earnings. So those are some of the benefits, of course, at a national level, if I may put it like that. That we get. But also the companies themselves, when they get into that space, they're able to then be competitive, because now we are trading, competing with the best
standards,
international standards. Yeah, those are the requirements. You have to meet the standards. So in order for you to access this market, so you are able to up your game in terms of how you do things. You are able to expand. You are able to get premium prices. If I may put it like that.
Yeah.
Because you find that maybe the product is on high demand in Europe.
Yeah.
So the price that they are willing to pay is very high. I think we've got the cases, of products that are like that.
Yeah. When you talk about GDP, I'm still on the first point that you mentioned. You spoke on gross domestic product. My general understanding of GDP is that external trade sits as the cornerstone of GDP with regards to the ratio. Of course, we trade domestically, but external trade then becomes the most important aspect of it. Is that so? Am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah, because it's a combination of also investment, coming into that GDP factor. And also you have to factor in, imports that are coming in. You get your trade balance and all of that. And then government, buying goods and services. But indeed, external trade is key because of the element of production. The more countries produce and are able to sell those products, then it means that country's GDP is going to look good.
Okay. Now give us some examples of the work that IPA does to market Eswatini as a trade partner with the world.
Yeah, we work with largely with other countries, where we undertake trade and investment promotions. It could be that we are going there to attract FDI. I think maybe the most recent one, which many people maybe come to appreciate, is what we did in Expo 2020 Dubai.
Yeah.
For instance, where we went out as a country, everyone going there to promote, Eswatini as Eswatini, from being Swaziland, to promote tourism, to promote investment, to promote trade, as we have said. So we are part of that, but then also working with like right now, I think not so long ago, we were announcing that we'll be attending a show in Taiwan. Okay. Because what we are doing now is we are focusing on certain regions.
Yeah.
We sign an agreement with Taiwan. So our activities as APA are now going to Taiwan so that we can take advantage of this trade agreement that we signed. So we are taking 12 traders, working with the government of Taiwan in April to showcase at the Dictionary Taipei show, which is mainly for handicraft and the creative industries. We have seen that there is demand, for products that we make.
So we're looking at handicraft, to handicraft and creative
industries, people in visual arts, painting and all of that.
Okay.
So that market is, there is demand, for those products. But even besides that, already our handicraft is accessing, markets in USA, in Europe. So obviously we are now forcing them to focus on Taiwan, take advantage of the preferences. In June, we will be taking another 10 traders, to showcase at the Food Taipei, which is now food and beverages, where again there is a huge demand for our goods such as sugar, ethanol, currently we are exporting citrus, which we are hoping to increase in numbers, and also chili sauces and all of that.
Yeah.
So those are some of the activities that we are undertaking to promote exports. But also we are working with, currently with ITC, International Trade Center, to try and penetrate the EU market, which is also a big market for us, because we have seen that we've been trading, you know, sort of traditional products that we've been doing for the past 10 years. So we need to venture into other sectors or maybe increase the production that we are doing to that market.
Yeah, you're speaking about these Asian countries in terms of, you know, exploring and diversifying our trade network. I think I have read an article in yesteryears where you had particular interest in the UK as well. How far with that development in terms of, you know, trading into the UK?
The UK is a major trading partner. It was when it was under the EU. Even now, we've got programs that we are working on with the UK government in terms of promoting exports now, because you must understand that they are now out of the EU trade bloc. So we now work, you know, with them as SACU, as Eswatini, you know. So we've got a lot of initiative, and I think one of them has focused on building the capacity of our exporters. Because the other thing that we are realizing is you need to have more people coming into trade so that they can take advantage of this. Just now we are having a workshop and working with ITC, and the figures are saying that trade is currently at 22 trillion. Our exports are currently at 22 trillion US dollars.
Wow.
Our exports are currently at 2 billion, 2.5 billion US dollars. So really you see that we need to step up so that we can get the benefits, and the cake is very big. So what we're trying to do then is to make traders to be export ready so that they can access these markets.
Yeah, but we cannot then overlook the commendable activity that you keep doing as EPA. Talk to me about the trade agreements that we have with other trade blocs. Of course, you've touched on some of them, but I just want us to focus on them right now and break them down one by one.
Yeah, traditionally we are SACU, Southern African Customs Union, and that's where I would say 70% of our exports are going to. Maybe 65% of our imports are coming from, largely South Africa. So that is our major trading partner, and then the rest, like 30%, is then going to countries in SADC, mostly Mozambique, the Southern African Development Community. We've got an FTA as well, exporting to Mozambique, largely, you know, going to countries such as Tanzania, where we are now exporting, you know, these concentrates and all of that. And then strategically, like I said, the only country that is accessing the East African market, Kenya, Eritrea, Uganda, you know, and getting preferences, you know, for our sugar, our concentrates. And then we have agreements with Taiwan, which I've mentioned, and the USA under AGOA, and then the EU, which we are working on now to penetrate, the Economic Partnership Agreement. So those are some of the preferential trade agreements, and they are very important because they can determine where, if you are able to penetrate the market. You know, if you come in, for instance, exporting textile and apparel to the USA, without AGOA, you will pay 32%, close to 40% in terms of taxes. So you bring it in with that agreement, you are eliminating 40%, so it makes it to be competitive. So we have those agreements, and hopefully others will come through. Like also the Africa Continental FTA, which I think the Minister has talked about largely, of course. To say that we need to penetrate. And mind you, on that one, we are one of the countries that are doing more trade with Africa. But we still want to
what is our advantage there? What is our advantage?
I think it's largely because we are trading a lot with South Africa. But then our products, like I was saying, because we are making inputs that are very critical in industries. So the demand, we export as far as Nigeria, and in big volumes. So the demand for our products is because of that. They are critical in certain industries, you know, in Africa. But then, of course, you know, I think we've got an export community that is very resilient, you know. Some of our traders already are doing business with other countries, you know, in Africa, where we don't even have trade agreements, which is showing that we are really
Yeah, it's really commendable.
Yeah, commendable.
And I think that's a perfect segue to our parting question, Mr. Mnisi. Of course, we have our unique selling points, but what are some of the selling points that Eswatini has that can attract trade partnership in Eswatini?
Yeah, I think the preferences, they play a big role. I've also mentioned that our strategic location as a country, you know, it plays a big role, because how quickly can you move your products?
Yeah.
You move it to Mozambique, 2 hours by port to wherever. You move it via Durban, you move it via OR, depending on what you are taking by road. So we can easily get to the transit port if you are not exporting to South Africa. So in other products, you know, even our climatic conditions and agriculture, we produce the best in terms of citrus. And the demand is not because in baby vegetables, it's not because the product is there, but it's because of the quality. Our sugar, because of our climatic conditions, soils, you know, all of those factors. So you put them together, then, other things will then come in, government incentives, you know, in terms of attracting the FDI, because the cost of production, again, they are very important. So if government will come in and then bring down those costs through incentives and all of that, then we are able to be competitive, and people can buy from you, because it's all about, at the end of the day, it's all about how much does it cost.
Yeah.
So if it's expensive.
Speaking of cost of production, obviously that's one of, you know, the things that hamper the sustenance of trade. But I'm mostly interested in some of the other challenges that continue to hamper it. I would assume road infrastructure is the biggest one. You spoke about us being the trade routes, you know, how we are positioned. What are some of the challenges, the major challenges that you feel like if we can fix this as soon as we can, then we're good?
Yeah, I think for us now, the challenges relating to trade, exporting, really it's on production, because the infrastructure, it's still, I would say, government is really attending to it in terms of roads, because all of our roads to the major ports, and even in terms of rail, and perhaps now even in terms of air, when you've got scoop and all of that. So I think, the transport aspect of things, it's in a way covered. It's the cost, how expensive it is, of course. If it's still by road to OR and it's expensive, then that's a problem. And then the other aspect will be issues relating to standards, you know, because those things are also very
spoken
costly.
about that one before.
Very costly for a trader. So otherwise, for us, the challenge now is to have more people coming in to realize that there is something that they can gain from export trade. In terms of even looking at it from an import. Like I've said, you can bring in goods because we are between big countries, so we can be the import and export hub, bring in goods to Eswatini and then take them to these countries. You can take them to South Africa. You've got the customs union, which will allow you free movement, you know, of the goods. So we can have people that are agents buying goods from anywhere, and then so I think we are nicely positioned, but the challenges will be on what I've mentioned, which is the cost, transport standards, and also issues, what can I say, relating to, I think
I suppose you finding difficulties to mention challenges just speaks to the great work that you're doing to, you know, to solve them. Mr. Mnisi, always a pleasure having you around. I think we've come to the end of our interview.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Sibusiso Mnisi, External Trade Manager with EPA, just telling us how Eswatini can position itself as a trade destination. And I think he's explained everything eloquently. I would be doing him a disservice to reiterate what he has just said. It is 56 minutes after 7. Let's take a quick ad break. Masbuya will wrap up the show.
your TV license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3 hash and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Two minutes before 8 a.m., we have come to the end of our program today. I think we've had a great show today speaking on artificial intelligence, harnessing data, and we've also had the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority coming back to Eswatini, just giving us an overview of how Eswatini can position itself as a trade destination. We come back tomorrow for another great episode on health matters. Join us tomorrow at 6 a.m. for 2 hours of just, topics around health. Siyabonga ukuthi nihleli nathi lo mhla ehlelweni, nisale kahle.